All right, and we are back with notifications pinging already that things are failing and being recovered. So, welcome back to the arena. Let's talk about loneliness. The epidemic of loneliness in a world where we're more connected than ever, and yet we have loneliness on the rise, on the increase, right? Especially among men. And that's not that it doesn't afflict women or it even afflicts men more than women. It afflicts men and women differently. And we're here to speak directly to men. Women, you are welcome to join. Welcome to join the conversation. Welcome to tune in. Honestly, it'll probably help you understand your man in a better way. That's one of the most profound things for me in my relationship with my wife is for us to take the time to understand the biology and neurology of the different sexes, the different genders better, right? So that we can understand each other better, which is just the baseline of how we're wired. I'm wired very differently than my wife, and she's wired differently than I am. And then there's some personality things on top of that. So, all great subjects to dive into and understand because they help you understand yourself, and by proxy, they help you understand the other. And it works in reverse, right? So the more you understand others, the more you start to understand yourself. If you're healthy, or you could be one of those crazy psychologists who gets their doctorate and is all screwed up and they want to fix everybody else, but you're like, wow, your life's a wreck. But you got the degree. Good job. So here we are, loneliness. Hey, let's dive in. What causes it? But more importantly than any of that, what do you do about it? Right? How do you transcend? How do you conquer the loneliness and harness that energy? Because everything is energy. There's an energy of loneliness, and it's a negative energy, and it's one that'll just suck you down and down and down and down further, right? Because it's isolation, and once we're isolated, we become prey to our negative thoughts very quickly and very
Always.
dangerously, right? So loneliness is an important thing to break that cycle, but how do you break it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So stay tuned, join in the conversation, leave us a comment. Those of you on LinkedIn, I don't get to see your comments till later, but the rest of y'all jump in, comment away, and we'll be answering your comments here live as we get them, or else I'll loop back around to you. And
Speaking
yes,
of,
join the Brotherhood, men, if you want to go deeper and further together. That's the link right there. Thank you, PJ. Go connect with us there, really dive in there. All right, so PJ, open us up. What do we got? What about this topic? What do you see going on out there?
well, for starters, everybody, this is Peter, a dear friend and my coach, and the opener, the star of the arena with me. He is the CEO of Unshakable, and I am PJ of Reality Dreamers. And we're here to talk about loneliness because I see this as just a growing epidemic, something that I don't know about most of y'all, but growing up, you kind of stuck in this kind of bottomless pit and you're trying to get out of it even though you're in a room filled with thousands of people or a
Mm,
classroom or even your closest friends at times
mm-hmm.
because I think a lot of it is like we don't know how to connect with one another on a deeper level because we're so overstimulated with the media, with our cell phones, technology, and then it's just that stage of overthinking comes into play. Like,
Yep.
if I talk too much, like, am I not being personable? Am I not following their boundaries? You're stepping on eggshells,
Right.
and none of that should ever be felt. I think part of it is not healing our inner child, not
Mm-hmm.
healing old trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and not having the right conversations because you're afraid to open this can of worms because you don't want to be different or this isn't the norm. Fuck
Right.
that. Come on.
Yeah.
I think I think we're all been there, but why not dig deeper into it? I've started more so in my late 20s, just telling people how it is, like how I feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's not always in the best state of mind, but
Yeah.
you
Right.
got to get it out. Got to get it out. Got to get it out. Rip the band-aid,
Rip
mate.
the band-aid. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not, that's the thing too, is like if you're waiting for it to be right before you start the journey of growth, you never start the damn journey. So start the fucking journey, make the mistakes and learn from them, grow with them, right? Don't be defined by your mistakes, but allow the mistakes to define you, like to sharpen you into a better version of yourself. So the difference there is if you're defined by your mistakes, you remain in the mistakes. But if the mistake is a defining portion of your journey, what that means is, hey, you went down that path, you realize that's not the right path. You learn how not to do something. That is valid and valuable knowledge. So never beat yourself up for making the damn mistake. Just leverage it and move forward. But the main thing is you have to start, otherwise you never get anywhere. And it is uncomfortable. It is just a mess. You know, yeah, how you can't engage with this journey and not have everything start to come apart. You pull one thread and now all of it, everything starts to pull, right? Like you just said, you're going to engage with how to overcome loneliness or what causes loneliness. So much of it, everything always comes back down really to the crux, which is self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is a healing journey. So we're healing the inner child so that we can reintegrate the shadow, which the shadow is a symptom of a wounded inner child as well, right? And self-judgment and societal judgment, all this kind of garbage. Again, all the stuff that we take on that's not necessary, that's not even true to you, but as we carry it, it starts to form our identity and our personality, and the personality is a memorized state, not much more, right? There's truth to the core energy of your being, and that's what I work with. That's different than the current memorized state of the pattern that you've adopted, and then it's become habit, right? As the quote goes, you create your habits and then your habits create you, and we've learned a lot of habits that are contrary to our own growth because look, the brain, this is the irony of treating our brain in the West and Western society, we treat our brain as though it's a decision-making faculty, which it is not. Your decision-making faculty, which means your inner authority, comes from within, comes from your heart, comes from your gut, comes from this deeper part of yourself that is non-rational, because the rational is here to process information in hindsight, not forward thinking. That's why when we default to letting our brain run our lives, which is the natural default, what happens is we just repeat the same experience day in, day out, and our life becomes a memorized routine, a habit, habitual, and it doesn't change because the brain's not going to look forward and think differently and open up to, because it's wired for self-preservation, which goes, well, we didn't die yesterday, so let's do that again today, because that's good. But good is the enemy of great. And greatness lies on the other side of a tremendous amount of effort and work and pain. But I don't
So,
say those as like, oh, it's, don't be daunted by that, because that pain is far less than the pain of regret, than the pain of living, remaining in the loneliness, remaining in the pain of stagnation, right? Which is a slow, painful death. And so also with all of that, I just want to state too that like I know the experience of loneliness very deeply. So I don't, as much as I can come at this subject rather heavily, want to just remind everybody, myself included, that you might not know my journey, my story. I suffered with extreme loneliness and extreme depression because I felt so isolated from everybody else. And it's not something that even that's, I'll say too, like, it's not even that it's gone away. It's not even that I don't feel lonely now. There's oftentimes I feel very isolated because of the journey and the path that I've chosen. There's not many others who really commit to the journey of ruthless self-development like I have, right? Which is the ability to actually really face up against yourself in a real and honest way on a daily basis. Most people would rather pretend that they're doing well. This happens even especially with the self-help gurus and the influencers out there, right? Which is why I'm not here to be another damn influencer, but to really just stand next to you all, right? Anybody engaged with this journey together, let's join as brothers and engage in this work together. I don't coach because I'm greater. I coach because I just understand the process, right? Because I've been there, because I know what deep loneliness is, to the point where it feels heartbreaking, where you feel like no one understands you and you might never connect with anybody and you might just end up alone for the rest of your life, because how are you going to find real connection in that state? So the irony is, well, I found a deep connection because I forged a deep connection with myself, and so I've created deeper connections with others. But it doesn't mean that I'm like Mr. Lots of social butterfly with lots of friends now. But I'm definitely not lonely.
what do you mean by that last part? What do you mean by you're definitely not lonely? You feel the loneliness, but you're not necessarily lonely, is what you're trying to elaborate?
There's a difference between loneliness and solitude.
Mm.
Loneliness is also rooted in the fear of being alone, which the way to conquer that is to be alone and face your damn fear, which is to sit with your own thoughts, right? And learn to master your thoughts and learn to master your brain. So your thoughts aren't running you, you're running your thoughts. And then you control your life. It's a simple formula. It's not easy to, it takes work to execute, but it is a simple function at its root. What I mean is that there's times where I felt isolated. And that comes up. I'd say the same thing as when we were talking about depression last week. There's times where I feel depressed, but I don't suffer with depression. Excuse me, right? Because it's like the wound opens back up and you realize, oh, there's this deeper area, and really it's a deeper opportunity for healing. Right? So there's times I feel a bit isolated or I feel the pull, because the reality just comes back to there's certain peer groups or friend groups or whatever, that you're just not, that are not going to stay with you. Your choice is, do you stay with them or do you grow? And the hard reality is you got to choose one. And decide comes from the Latin root decide, which means to cut off. And if you're not willing to cut off your old friend group, you're not going to become you're not going to be able to become your higher self and keep your current friend group. It's not going to happen. Some of them may choose to join you, but you have no control over that, because you can bring the horse to the water, but you cannot make them drink. Otherwise, you're just going to drown them, and then you're a psychopath. And I've met those.
Oh shit! I'm sorry about that, but no, I definitely agree with you. And I think it's a transformation movement for me in this kind of like awkward transition where it's kind of like, oh, I need more solitude so I could work on my business. I need more solitude so I can elevate myself. I need more solitude so I can become a greater version of me for the sake of others.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, but I'm letting down my friends that we were ride or dies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that we're not ride or dies anymore. It's just I think the journey of their life is pivoting. The journey of my life is pivoting. It was a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
We may come back together. Who knows? It's unpredictable. But I know for a fact this loneliness is temporary and I'm connecting with the people that I'm supposed to be because it's divine timing.
That's right.
It's definitely a tough pill to swallow. Things that you used to love to do, just not filling that void anymore.
Right.
Those activities, the Mario Kart and day drinking or riding together, and you have like your best friend who's a magician and he's stringing on the guitar. Those kind of magical moments, they're disappearing. But I have new magical moments where I'm creating
Yes.
my identity. I'm creating something that's intangible, and I think that's phenomenal. Like, what else? What other possibilities can I do with these new peer groups?
I love that. And there's something bittersweet to the journey, and that's where it's just can't underline the importance enough of just being present in the moment, because the moment is where the magic is, right? In this present moment, all of time and space bends around it. In this present moment, we set a new course of a new future, and we get to heal the past in the present moment. So if we're disconnected from the present moment, we're missing out on the opportunity, on the gold that is that moment. And so the same thing happens with people. So when we feel isolated, and so there's also a difference too now in the past of feeling isolated and separated from me because I felt like I couldn't connect with people. Right. And now it's moved to a place of realizing who I connect with. And it's just become more selective, is just the bottom line. No polite way to say it. It's just a lot of people I don't connect with, and I've tried and I've realized now we're not on the same level. And it's a waste of my time to pretend that we are, because it's not going to go anywhere. It's, my purpose is too big to waste my time.
Yeah.
You're coming with me or you're not, right? And that sounds harsh and rude, but I mean, there you go. There's the invitation. Y'all can come join me or you cannot, because the purpose is to serve, right? And you'll see that when you work with me, come join the community, hang out with us, right? Here to serve, but I'm not here to just waste time. And it's not that those youthful times are a waste of time because they're part of the important. Like I remember that too. That's like you're young, like early 20s, 18, 17. Those times you just could never repeat it. If I tried to repeat that now, it would be so imbecilic, you know. But it's a magic memory. Hanging out with my clueless, dumb friends, and I'm clueless and dumb too, and not an insult to them. It just that's where we were. Clueless, dumb 18-year-old dudes, and we're like, what are we gonna do? Play World of Warcraft, you know, smoke pipes, just whatever, right? Like dumb stuff. And it's part of, I don't know, it's just part of the journey.
Yeah.
Totally dumb, kind of wasted from a pure productivity standpoint, but there's something about finding yourself, right? Finding yourself in the process. And so don't discard your experience. Honor it and leverage it. I'm a totally different person now, so it wouldn't fit for me to go back and try to relive that experience. And that's the problem with nostalgia, is an over attachment to the past. Then it becomes a ball and chain, kind of dragging yourself back, and that's not helpful. But those moments are for you, because life happens for you, and then there's that. And then it's important to still then be connected in the present moment, because again, if we're trying to relive the past, we're not being in the present, and the present is where the new magical opportunity is, that is going to create a better and better future. And so that's a stepping stone. But if you look at any journey, you can't fixate on one stepping stone and think, oh, this is it. And what happens is gurus across the board do that. They say, oh, this stepping stone led to my transformation way down here, so now I'm going to write a book about this stepping stone and tell everybody you got to do this thing. And they hyperfixate. They do it in fitness, they do it in diet, they do it in self-help, they do it in mindset, they do it all across the board. And then they turn themselves into gurus because they fixate on one little thing. So just beware of that.
I feel like it's everything. Mind,
It
body,
is.
and
It's human
soul,
nature.
right? Damn straight. But get get into an understanding of yourself,
Hmm.
uh, and learn to let go. I think that's super hard for our generation. Letting go
Yeah.
of what's comfortable. Uh, the other day, I just did a best man speech for my buddy that came over on a daily basis. We literally didn't lock the door because he would just walk in. Didn't even say hi to me. Just go for the goddamn orange juice. Like, what are you doing, mate? Are you serious?
Yep.
So it was just those kind of moments where it's like, ah, shit, dude. Like, this is my best mate, and I'm not gonna see him. But in that moment when I'm giving his speech, and I saw the way his wife was looking at him on
Mm,
this amazing day, and I'm like, you know what? This is their new chapter. This is
that's it.
where he wants to be. He just got back from his honeymoon, and the more I got to know her and speak to her, the more I'm like, wow, my best mate has found an amazing woman that's there through thick and thin, and she has such a beautiful, kind soul. Hey, man, I can't wait to see you have your family. He's looking at houses now, and I'm like, fuck, you did it, brother.
All
It
right.
it's it's been a hard pill to swallow because we did everything together for like 13 years,
Hmm.
but it's coming to the realization that you can't please everybody. You can't do everything at all times. You have to pick and choose how you're spending your time with. And I think the biggest value that American civilization doesn't know is we should value ourselves more. That we should be number one, and then your family, your friends, or vice versa, the family you could create that are not blood, but you have this amazing bond where it's like, hey, you need me? I'm a phone call away. I'll be right there.
Right. But you can't be there for them if you don't take care of yourself. That
Exactly.
concept can really, trip you up. Like making yourself number one, isn't that selfish? It's about why, right? If you're on purpose, if you're living on purpose, well, then you damn well better take care of yourself. It's the whole thing of fit your own mask first on the airplane, right? Not talking about your COVID masks. Don't need those. Burn those things. I'm talking about the gas mask on the plane. You know, the oxygen mask. Um, if you don't fit your own first, you're likely to asphyxiate why? Because what, you want to run around and be a hero and be Mr. Selfless and go make sure all the grandmas have theirs fixed. They probably already took care of it because they know to just put their own damn mask on, you know, and that's what it says in the book. Fit your own mask first and then take care of anybody else who needs help. Because if you don't fit yours first, you're going to make yourself a liability to everybody else. And then you're going to need them to take time out of their day, out of their purpose, out of their mission to come pick you up off the floor in the aisle because you ran out of oxygen because you were running up and down trying to help everybody else, right? So fit your own mask first so that you can be of service. And it's that interesting duality, right? That we find, and it drives the polarizing mind crazy when we try to, oh, so it's this, or is it this, or is it this, or well, it's both. So much of life is both, but you don't get the both until you learn to walk that fine line, which is a transcendence. Once again, that triangular model I always love to use because we think, oh, it's this, or it's this, or it's this, or it's this, and oftentimes it's this. We transcend these two polarities, and there's something greater. We take care of ourselves for the sake of others, and we take care of others for the sake of ourselves because it's in service to something greater, which is your purpose and your calling.
I think this is a perfect opportunity right now. Can you just give us a little more deeper understanding of what we do, especially what you provide in the Brotherhood?
Self promote.
I mean,
Ironically,
yeah,
I've always like the funny thing is like I always feel terrible at self promotion.
don't.
The brother, well, okay, the core of my work is about self actualization, self realization, right? The results, the side effects of that is increased productivity, right? Getting more done, growing your business, um, confidence, boost, right? But it comes down, everything hinges on your own self knowledge. So that's really the core and the root of all that I do is empowering others to step into the truth of who they are, to align with their own natural energy. Because if you're working against your energy, it's like working against the grain of wood. It's not going to go well. You're going to get splinters and the wood's going to chip and crack. It's never going to look nice. Work with the grain of wood. Every carpenter knows that. But for some reason, when it comes to ourselves, we think, oh, work on your weaknesses. I suck at math, so I'm going to work on my algebra. You know, if people told that to Michael Jordan, we wouldn't have Michael Jordan, right? Somehow he knew focus on your strengths and forget the physics because I mean he was an applied physicist, you know what I mean? But like whatever it was, I don't even know if he was bad at something at school, but I'm sure he was because nobody can be good at everything. But that's the neuroticism of standardized testing, right? So I'm a hyper individualist in some ways, but I mean, to really just help people become the true self. And the byproduct of that is your business is going to do a ton better. Your relationship, your marriage is going to be way better. Your confidence is going to go through the roof. And your productivity, you're going to get a shit ton more done because you're working with yourself, not against yourself, right? You're going to cut through the limiting beliefs. You're going to sharpen your mindset and really weaponize your mind so that you can function at a high level, right? And accomplish your goals rather than let your goals haunt you and torment you as the list of things you want to do and are never doing, right? So you can break the cycle and become who you're meant to be.
And guys, like I've been working with Peter for a while now, and just my overall value and feelings of my self worth has exponentially grown. Like I feel like I'm trying to make a difference. The things that I wanted to do were too afraid of because I didn't think anybody would be by my side. I didn't think my ideas had any kind of meaning
Mm.
that uh, for instance, society especially glorifies small talk, and here I have a man that in the same mindset with me, like let's cut the bullshit, let's get into this deep, meaningful conversation. And I adore that. I thrive on that, and it's cool to see the connection that we're different time zones apart, and
Mm-hmm.
I could feel Peter's energy and his vibes, his love, his passion to serve. And I think that really helped with my own journey into solitude.
Hmm.
That, yeah, I'm going through this transformation with somebody by my side, but it's in solitude, you know?
That's the
So,
thing, because I can't do it for you, right? I want to highlight that because the coaching dynamic or the just the whole growth dynamic, the importance of the solitude and to own your loneliness is because no one can do it for you. And if they try, it's a molestation.
mhm.
It is a form of abuse. And there are a lot of people out there that are guilty of this. And I'm not, and I'll continue to call it out. It's absolute bullshit to try to overwrite and win the battle for somebody. You're robbing them of the opportunity to take up their own sword and realize I am strong, right? That's the biggest thing that lights me up in our journey working with you is to see you time after time lighting up and realizing I have this capacity. I am capable. It's not me coming in and doing it for you because if I did that, it would be robbery. I'm here just to, yeah, just to be that, rather intense sounding board. You know how it goes, right? Cut through the shit and get down to what matters because there's no time for BS, right? You're too important. Your mission is too important. We don't have time to just dick around. Let's get to work. So, you know, and so solitude and loneliness just is is also it's a gift. I want to that's another reframe on the whole point. When you're experiencing loneliness, one of the first anything that we term as negative, right, is also it's a time to stop and reflect and realize I'm assigning meaning to this. So part of your whole experience is coming from the fact that you've assigned a meaning to be feeling lonely, that it means, well, there's something wrong with me, or I don't fit in with society. Or, I mean, I'll tell you something that just processed from me at a whole new level this past week was this feeling that something that I've carried with me for my whole life, which is I'm too much. I need to tone myself down, right? Because I'm going to make other people uncomfortable, right? And so here's the deal was this past week I realized, well, every time I've processed this, and I've worked with some mindset coaches on this too, and they didn't cut mustard. Because anyway, I love this part of the thing I've been holding back on is like, oh, let's be nice to all these other people that are putting out their shingle as a coach. Ever since COVID, we have way too many coaches. People that know they think they know something. Like, no, get out there and like really sharpen up.
Mhm.
Cut your stuff, and the way you're going to do that is through real experience. But the thing, what something I noted this past week was that I was still trying to work it from other people's. I was still every time I was trying to process it and processing it with others, they were still making it. I was making it, and they were making it about other people still. It just doesn't matter,
No,
right?
dude, I
So
love when you're
the
yourself.
what's that?
I love it when you're yourself.
I did too, right? And so the processing, and I'm bringing this up hopefully it's a helpful example to anybody listening, just to hear the process, right? The live raw process is like, well, the processing in the past was like I would try to rewire it and or shift the belief to be something like, oh well, I'll attract the right people by being myself and all this stuff. But it was still hinging on them. Oh, I'll attract the right people. So now I'm still looking for the right. It's still a destabilization. It's taking me out of myself and then out here. So now I'm hinged on something else, and that better be there, or else I'm flopping. Right? You have to be grounded within yourself. Right. So this
So,
was a place where I speak to this like confidence, unshakable confidence, right? But
yeah.
this was a place where my confidence had become shakable because it was hinging on external approval or affirmation, which has been a big one throughout my life, right? And so this the past week I just wrote, in my journaling and all, I just wrote down, I'm too much. I am too much. Deal with it. You know what I mean? That's like, that's it. I don't fucking care. Because it's not going to be about anybody else anymore. It's just about me doing what's right by me, and right, and being my full self is the only way that I have the full capacity to achieve my purpose. From a business and like personal branding, messaging, all that kind of stuff is a big topic. PJ can speak more to this, like the depth of sales. Like, you really want to, if you're struggling in your sales, we need to talk. If you're struggling to generate leads, to craft your message, like there's always simple fixes, and usually it's because nobody knows how to really convey their value to the marketplace in an effective way, and so then your business suffers and struggles. But there's always a deeper piece to that, and the deeper piece is nobody engages with bland, right? So you have bland brand syndrome when you're being a bland personality, you're going to be a bland personality when you're afraid of what other people might think of you. But you look at the
Word.
people that really blow up and do well as a personal brand. Now it's like there's always all these pieces, but there's some very simple levers. Another thing I noticed, there's a lot of people that just stumble into being a great personal brand, and then they don't have any of the systems behind it, so they don't understand their offer, and so there's all these ways you are losing money right now. You just don't realize it in your business, right? And if you want to get on top of that, just reach out to me, please, because it's so much simpler than you think. But there's all these little holes. So the brand up front is the first place, because that's what are people even interacting with. If you're bland, do you realize how many other things are competing for the attention of your prospects right now, or just the people you want to help, whether you're pitching something or not? Like right now, what we're doing here, we're competing for attention,
Of course.
because how many other things on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and wherever else, right? This is a sale. Everything is sales. Now we're like way off from loneliness. Sorry, guys, but like
Whoa,
the
listen,
the
you're my
main
garlic bread.
What's that?
You're my garlic bread, mate. You know what I mean? You're the flavor we need and what the world needs to see more of. And I'm going to challenge you too with feeling like you're too much. The next time you have to go and do a talk in front of people or meet new people, thinking to yourself, what if I don't like them? What if they don't match my energy? Don't look too much inward. Fuck that. It gets me really mad, and I didn't even know you felt that way, bro. Like, I'm kind of hurt. Like, you didn't share this sooner. Like, you were more than enough. You're great. You're fantastic. That I hope it sinks in slowly, and you really enjoy seeing you for who you are.
The journey, always, but it is
So,
every day more than the last, and that's the process, right? And that's why I can speak to this once again. It's because I know the pain, and I know the process, and I know the healing. I don't speak to it as being one who is perfect, and that's why I'm more than happy to just share the raw, vulnerable journey as I'm going through it, because I don't want anybody to even try to associate me with perfection, because it's just bullshit, full of problems. But one thing I'm damn good at is helping you level the fuck up.
there we
So,
go. There we go. Bring it out, Merlin. Bring out the lightning. But like, guys, like for instance, Peter breaks everything down into structures. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at creating a plan or a game plan. I'm the kind of guy that just wants to jump right in and be like, "Hi, how are you doing? What are you feeling? You want to talk about it?" you know, Especially with like a business perspective, I'm like, I want to just jump right in, but how do I jump right in? Especially with social interactions. Like, God, I don't want to talk about the weather or sports. That's bullshit. No thanks. How's your business? How's your family? How are you actually feeling today?
mm-hmm.
Don't give me this BS. I'm good. I'm fine. Like, sit through it. Have a conversation with somebody. Be
Right.
serious. Because one of the top topics me and Peter talk about is I don't ever feel like I'm enough. So, interesting. Two very similar people. I'm too much. I'm not enough.
Right.
But let me tell you,
Two sides of the same coin
that's it.
at the root of it, right? And that's yeah, another topic I need to make more content about, but like human design, right? Getting your chart and doing a chart reading with me, I can tell you exactly where some of these insecurities come from. It doesn't mean now you're inoculated and like, oh, it doesn't matter anymore. But I'll tell you, like, diving into my human design chart and starting has been more impactful in my self knowledge journey than any other tool or methodology. And we both have an open heart center, which is the center of self worth. When that's an open center, that means it becomes a question mark. Am I worthy? Right. And so the beauty of looking at your chart is you can identify, well, these are where the limiting beliefs generally root from, right? So you can trace them more easily, more quickly. It accelerates the process, but it also gives you the opportunity to create more power, right? Just go straight for the throat and say, well, that's the not self theme. That's the root right there, is that I have this Achilles heel of, am I valuable? Am I worthy? The affirmation you can just create and have as part of your daily process is just, I am worthy, right? And that's why we talked about that last week. Axios means you are worthy. And just go look at yourself in the mirror, look yourself in the eyes and say, you are worthy, right? And then give yourself a high five. If you don't know that, there's a lot of cool science behind it, but just giving yourself a high five in the mirror is a profound experience. Some people have done it for the first time and broke down in tears because they've never seen themselves in that way before, because it does something neurologically. Part of the science behind that too is like or part of the studies, the NBA teams that do well and go into, or was it, maybe it was the college teams, either way, basketball teams that went into the playoffs, no, it was NBA, had a higher percentage, like the ones that gave themselves a lot of high fives in the locker room went to the playoffs. The ones that didn't make it to the playoffs. So it's a distinct, more important than the actual individual skill. Why? Because as a team, you've got to work together, right? So you might have a bunch of really skilled players, but if they don't work together, you're not going to win. Yeah, you're not going to win championships. But think about ourselves, right? How often do we feel like we have white collar schizophrenia? Nobody wants to talk, right? Give yourself a freaking high five and start to work past it so you can work with yourself, not against yourself, because you have a highly skilled team, right? You got to understand what your skill sets are, right? And that's part of the process of self-knowledge, is owning, what are my gifts, what are my talents? And then that also means, what's my drudgery zone, like we talked about. What are the things I suck at, so I can just avoid that and outsource it. Especially you entrepreneurs out there, stop doing the stuff you suck at. You're just wasting your damn time,
Mhm.
and you're doing yourself and all of your future prospects a disservice, because you're not going to reach them. You're not going to build a business doing stuff that you suck at. So just get over the damn hustle and grind idea, because it's BS. It's cancerous to your productivity, and the other cancer to your productivity is notifications. So turn those off. All right, enough on productivity. Let's get back to loneliness and what do you do about it. And oh yeah, and where we were was talking about how everything comes down to the meaning that we assign to it too, right? So when you're feeling lonely, when you're experiencing that, the way that you can really just leverage that in a whole new way and revolutionize your experience is by recognizing it does not mean what you think it means. It does not mean that you're not enough. It does not mean you're too much. It does not mean anything like that. It doesn't mean anything about the other people. We can just shed the judgment, because all that is judgment. It's either they're not good enough, that's why I don't fit in, or they don't like me, or they're bigoted, or something like that, right? In our culture that's now obsessed with finding some way that somebody's being, discriminatory. And it's like, look, let's stop assigning so much damn meaning, because you doing that is just ruining your own life. Really, at the bottom line, like, if you're going to go around looking for discrimination, you're going to find it. I know I'm a white guy, so I don't get to talk about that. Tough. I am going to talk about it. Um, and
No, you owned
well,
it.
my
You
kids
owned
are
it.
my kids are Filipino, so that's my ticket to ride, right? No, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. So when you can just arrest that, it's like stopping the freight train from going off a damn cliff, and then realize, when you're feeling lonely, that is an opportunity. That is a golden opportunity to become present and grow to a new level. Because
Yeah.
the pain that you experience in life is deepening you. as a vessel, as your capacity, right? One of my favorite quotes is that we are vessels of the Holy Spirit deepened through sorrow.
Okay. I actually really dig that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not much of a religious guy, but that was on point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
I have to agree with that. And it's like trying different things out of your comfort zone in order to evolve in your solitude, which is what we constantly talk about, especially like traveling,
Mm-hmm.
trying a new hobby,
Mm-hmm.
going out, doing something new with a friend or by yourself.
Right. And at the bottom line, like I would say, a great new meaning to assign to loneliness is that is your opportunity to come closer to God,
Well,
because that's what that space is, right? And you non-religious folk out there, like I don't know, it's not a religious statement on some level. It's a matter of it's about our actual true real connection with God, which I'm just gonna say is like it's not a religious argument. It's just life, right?
mhm.
And part of that process though is also coming to closer connection with yourself. So if the idea of God still offends you, like I'm open to that conversation. Anybody listening? I'm not, you know, like I'm very open to engaging with that conversation because I get it. But also, I'm going to come back and say that loneliness is your deep opportunity to come closer to God, and that's part of the gift of it, and that's why it's allowed. Because one of the questions is, if there was a loving God, why would He allow suffering? Well, because the suffering is taking you to a higher level than you would ever take yourself to. That's a bot. I don't care where you come from, religiously, philosophically, anything. I believe that is an absolute truth of life. None of us within ourselves have the determination, the grit, and the capacity to really get ourselves to that next level. It takes external force, and the suffering of life is a vessel of transformation because it takes you to a place that you could never take yourself by yourself.
I hate that I want to challenge you because I hate the fact that you're kind of right, and I don't want you to be right on this kind of topic. And I'm
All
trying to
right.
think of something sophisticated to like counter it. But the older I've gotten, and the more trials and tribulations that me and my family have faced together, uh, I think it is God's way of getting us closer to one another and ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, God damn, Peter, like that was a smooth, smooth slap in the face of figuring it out. And I want to challenge it because I want to be like, nah, this is not right. This is like I want to be like Nietzsche. It's all about us. It's who we are. But there's definitely like you said, God or a higher being or presence spiritually that is in us, all around us in the universe, and it's taking us to our purpose. And I think in purpose and finding our purpose, we will destroy that feeling of loneliness because we realize that this is where we're going. This is what it's meant to be. And if you're drowning yourself in being overstimulated by media, drugs, substances, other addictions like pornography, get out of those detrimental states. Well, we're just blocking the next level. You're not doing yourself any service.
Yeah.
What's so good about being inebriated? What's so good about not hearing the inner voice in your head? Maybe they're
Yeah.
trying to tell you like this is where your career is. This is where you should be with a relationship with your
Right.
future partner. All right, like I think loneliness and substance abuse are very interrelated, and it's a shame.
As in a reaction to loneliness. And there's a big distinction between reaction and response, right? Reaction is like this usually comes from I want to get away from, and because it's the still small voice of God. It's another place to bring us home, right? It wasn't in the whirlwind, it wasn't in the storm, it was the still small voice after it had all passed that Moses heard, and that was the voice of God. And so we all have that going on within ourselves, that still small voice that is the voice of inspiration, that is the voice of guidance, that is the voice of your higher calling, and even your higher self, which is the potential that is already, right? If we're made in the image and likeness of God, think about that. How lofty and how great that is. That's why I mean, my favorite feast day in the Orthodox Church was this past beginning of this month was Transfiguration, where Christ goes up to Mount Tabor as a man and reveals the divine within him. And that the ancient fathers speak to as it's not just God showing off, it's him showing us our calling, what he has done for us. And that's the depth of the understanding of love, the love of God in the person of Christ, is that he was taking on. It's not just this idea of like, oh, people messed up and so they needed, a perfect sacrifice or whatnot. It's really God taking our human nature and taking it to a whole nother level, because it unified with God in the person of Christ. And so now human nature, has been taken and transcended to a whole new level. And that is the calling. That's the meaning of life, right?
Yeah.
That's the meaning of life, is to pursue that. And there's so much more to riff on there, but it's just so loneliness is part of the vehicle to that, in that journey, because even Jesus went into the desert alone for 40 days, right? And so there's something important about the deprivation. Deprivation is not punishment. It's a path to enlightenment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same with Buddha. What did he? Well, he fasted and meditated, right? And then he
Amen.
had revelation. So you look at, it's just, we don't find the inspiration, we don't find truth in busyness and noise and overwhelm. And so again, a reaction to loneliness, is drug abuse, substance abuse. I know what that's like. I was 20 and I was drinking myself to blackout every opportunity that I got, until something just clicked for me and I realized I'm not going to keep doing this, because I'm going to live for something greater. And that's another point that I wanted to underline for the path of out of loneliness, is to live for something greater. And then the right people will come to you and you'll form the right connections. But if you go out there looking, well, now you're coming at it from a deficit. That's the same thing with, like, if you're looking for a relationship, right? You want a girlfriend, right? She's not going to want you if you're a big old loose umbilical cord flopping around in the wind going, feed me, right? I've got mommy issues. I need somebody. Well, she doesn't want, right? Every woman wants a man that can take care of themselves so that they can take care of their family. But if they're needy, it's just, you got to respect yourself. And the path to self-respect, it lies through loneliness.
Yeah.
Transmuting your loneliness into the power of solitude and gaining self-knowledge and self-mastery, because our brain will just run us if we don't tame it like a dog, because it's the organ it's the one organ, as Roddy talks about, it's the one organ that we don't have control over, and he's damn
It
right. Like, the heart just
sucks.
works, right? The lungs work; they do what they're supposed to do, and they don't get in our way. But the brain, woo, that thing will run you ragged, right? It'll run you all over the place. Partly because we haven't gained the right authority over it, which is the place where it just goes spiritual. Like, there's no way around it. There's not we I love working with Roddy, because we're I'm gaining so much information and insight into the neuroscience, more than I had before, of personal development, of how to work the mindset. But there's a level of it, and he touches on this too. There's always a level of it that is beyond the science, because you cannot study the spirit. It's the spirit that needs to be in charge of the mind, right? And the
You said
mind
that?
then guides the body. What's that?
You said that? I love that. That makes a lot of sense. Because I really do believe that you have to get into, like, I call it the zone.
Mhm.
And the zone is when you're perfectly in tune with your wants and desires, and it all flows, and it's quiet.
Yeah.
Your mind space is quiet, and it's just hey, you're an engine. Like I only get that way when I'm in the gym and I'm trying to find out how can I get into the zone in my business.
Mm,
So like I don't use music at the gym.
mm-hmm.
I'll have casual conversations, but I try to keep it at a minimum and focus on the task at hand.
Yes.
And those 2 to 3 hours, it's almost like a climax. This is my peak. This is where I'm supposed to do. And the next 2 3 days, I feel fantastic. I could slay the day. But after the gym or after that exercise, then the mind starts, all right, what are we doing? Why are you not being productive? You're
Right.
not enough. Who are
It's
we hanging out with?
we treat it as though it has the supremacy, and it just does not. The spirit must, but if the spirit does not rule your being, it becomes subject to the mind, and the mind needs guidance, and definitely the body does. If we were just at the right, and you see some people are just kind of driven by their body, and that's just carnal desire, food, sex, right? You're not going to die because the body wants to survive and just kind of wants pleasure. But pleasure is the enemy of fulfillment. It's not that you can't have pleasure. Well, there's a different elevated transcendent pleasure of pursuing your purpose, but it comes with discipline. The discipline is the cutting off. It's I'm not going to do that because I'm going to do these higher things because I'm going to step into my higher self. And then if we're ruled by the mind, we're just crippled with self-doubt, anxiety, analysis paralysis, perfectionism, and distraction, right? And so yeah, to answer your question, I mean, does he say that? Yes, yes and no. I mean, it's kind of one of these things that I just said, but as a synthesis of all these things I've studied. Like, I mean, that also comes from, again, the Desert Fathers. Like, truth is timeless. They weren't neuroscientists, but they understood the human being way more deeply than most modern people do, right? And modern science is really just catching up to ancient wisdom. That's why I work with and respect Roddy, is because he has that understanding and he's applying the science to the wisdom rather than trying to subvert the wisdom to the science. That's the false way to do it. The spirit must reign supreme. And so the science is there for us to observe, but that's the limitation of science, is it can only observe. So that's why we cannot answer philosophical questions with science, because it comes back to that idea of axiom, right? You cannot prove zero,
Mm.
but it is, and we all know it is because you intuitively know it. Your right brain knows it. Your left brain does not. There's another interesting piece on that. The messenger, the king and the messenger. That the actual knowledge and authority comes from the right brain, that creative hemisphere of the brain, and the left brain is the messenger because it's able to translate that into rational, like speech, language, alphabet. These are all left brain type things, really, right? So we elevate it to a place that is, and that's just a human, that's a classic problem across so many places. When we elevate the wrong thing to the pinnacle, we say, oh, this is great, it must be the thing. It's not. The brain is beautiful. It is amazing. It is powerful beyond our real comprehension. But the problem is when it's not in alignment, not serving the spirit, it will just drive you off a cliff. Right? And we all know what that looks like. So
That's the
it
beauty of
comes
it.
back to,
I'm saying that's the beauty of it. The beauty of finding alignment, the beauty of being in that solitude, getting out of your head. That loneliness is just. I think it's fictional.
mm,
It's something we
heroic.
create. Yes. Yes.
hmm hmm
So
And it is, and that's where you're slaying the dragon. We talk about the lizard brain, right? That primordial part of your brain where your fears come from is the base part of your brain, right? It is the lizard brain, and you have to slay the dragon. And the way to do that, and that's where loneliness then, when we transmute it into solitude and we sit in that loneliness and we don't try to escape it. And that's the key. So again, drug abuse, alcoholic abuse reaction is trying to escape it. And when we try to escape it, we only reinforce the walls of the prison. But when you sit in it, you master it, right? You claim it for you. You claim that energy for your own because you can sit in the loneliness and it transmute. And then you practice the solitude of I don't need to go somewhere. I'm going to sit with. That's where my favorite meditation practice, because I don't know, toyed in like, oh, I'm going to use meditation as a time for prayer. I separate the two at this point. Prayer and meditation are very connected, but also separate for me. Meditation I use just as a time of silence to sit. I don't do a guided meditation. I'm not into, like, love Dr. Joe Dispenza. I learned some good stuff from him, but like I'm not into his like, now the space behind the space, in the space between your eyes and your brain. I'm like, it just doesn't. It's not my thing. A lot of people love him. I mean, I love him. I think he's got some fantastic insights, and then sometimes it's just too out. Like, I don't know. It's just too. I guess just too woo
Too
woo,
out there.
right? Yeah, but whatever. To each their own.
Well,
But for me,
I do-
meditation just quite simply is sit in silence and master your brain. And so that's where you tame it like a dog when it tries to say, oh, what about this thing? Nope, get back here.
but I would
Nope.
say they don't have to be alone in it.
What's that?
Be alone in your solitude, but like come with us in the journey.
Yes. No, yeah, yeah,
You know.
100%. Because there's a time for both. Absolutely. I'm so like worked up on this, and I feel like I'm just jumping in and talking every
No,
time you
no.
say something. But I'm like, yeah, come join the brotherhood. I mean, thanks for dropping that in the chat. Yeah, come join us, because that's key though. Like, yeah, you spend the time in solitude so that you can connect more deeply with your brothers when it's time, right? That's part of our pride. Like, we're not spending, like, right, in the coaching dynamic, we're not spending every day together because it would just be stupid and pointless and useless. The coaching dynamic is we're going to meet and come together for that time, right? And I'm building a mastermind as well. So there's a whole nother dynamic to this. We got the brotherhood. You're all free to join. Like, come join us there. But if you're a mission driven man and you're ready to just level up to the whole nother level in your business, in your life, your leadership, your mindset, let's talk about the mastermind dynamic, because that is a place where, yeah, we come together, like we talked about with the round table. The knights of the round table come together to support each other, to encourage each other, to gain new insight, and then they go out and execute on their own individual quests. But together they became a stronger force than any one of them individually would be, but they support each other in the execution of their individual quests, right? So that's, again, the thing is, like, you got to spend your own time practicing the solitude, and then what it does is it opens your capacity when you're meeting with the others, when you're meeting in the mastermind dynamic, which is a magical dynamic. I mean, it's spoken of, right? Was Napoleon Hill talks about the mastermind, and everybody kind of fixates on it there, but it was in the Bible before that, where two or three are gathered in my name, there also am I, right? There's always something magical about bringing multiple people together with the same intention, and Napoleon Hill puts it very nicely and beautifully, and that there's something incredible to the mastermind that goes far transcends your capacity to ever do things by yourself, and even just with two people. Like, you bring multiple people together and the dynamic shifts, and it's an exponential gain.
Hell yeah. And be yourself. Like that's the best thing with working with Peter. I get to be me. There's no judgment. We're unique. We bounce off each other's energy and we're just trying to see who else doesn't want to go through the shadow depths of hell. I mean, you got to do your main quest by yourselves, but why not have some guidance? Why not have some help?
Life changing. Yeah, when you got the backup, you can come back and have a sounding board. You can have check in, right? And also to be surrounded by a team, surrounded by the right peer group. Once again, the power of peer group, right, is that it just carries you further than you can carry yourself, because you're surrounded by the energy.
Hmm.
And it's,
Well, I was gonna say water just seeks its own level. So
yeah,
I mean, I've been with Peter for a while, and I definitely feel elevated. And I know what I want out of life is I want to keep creating. I want to write. I want to write stories. I want to keep writing poems. I want to be free. I want to keep skating and being myself and not have to listen. Corporate is great. Don't get me wrong, mate. So I love it. But at the same time, is when can I make my own? When can I make my own? My own. when can I be free and have that Corona, be on the beach, having passive income, not having to worry about that. That's something y'all have to think about.
Just
What
lost
do you
the
really want?
Instagram. Oh no.
Yeah, I
I
don't know
know,
what
right?
happened, man.
Popping up and distracting us on the side. But no, that's I love that. It's like, yeah, I
I
mean, the
think
people I
Instagram only
resonate
lasts.
with and the people that resonate best with me are the ones who are determined to create their own. Right? That's the entrepreneurial drive. You got the entrepreneurial drive, whether you got a business and you're doing great, or you want to launch a business and put and turn that vision into a reality, right? One way or another, that's where I live, but yeah, to the point, like it's not at the detriment to if you've got a corporate track, right? The main thing is pursuing what's actually right and true for you. You know,
Yeah,
don't start a business because somebody else says you should. Start a business because it's the desire in your heart that you want to see take a life of its own. And that's the beauty of a business is it does take a life of its own. And then it calls you to a higher standard. It's an amazing process like that. You go launch that thing and yeah, that's a point of no return. All of a sudden now it's going to demand of you a different, right? And that's the whole thing of the entrepreneurial mindset. You got to up level your mindset because the way you think now is not going to take you to the where you need to go. But the good news is you can change that mindset. You can sharpen it. You can hone it into a sharp point and weaponize your mind, right? But the mind has to be in service to the spirit, and that's the place of alignment. And the question of, well, is the business your calling? Is it your purpose? Right? Does your spirit resonate with it? If not, right, yeah, then what does your spirit resonate with? So, no discrimination against you corporate lads, right?
just,
That's a perfectly viable path. Um,
yeah.
and the timing too. You don't know the timing. It might be that the first part of your life is corporate, and then the latter half is different. I mean, that's Roddy, right? Was a board member, and now he's uh, running this new initiative in the last couple of years. Going from doctor to then working with Olympic athletes to now to then being board member, directing big companies, and now total different ball game. And that's why we're working together is because it's a different ball game, and you gotta market your knowledge, your information, your services, and reach a bigger audience. So anybody's wondering like, why the heck do I keep mentioning Roddy? Because I work with him in multiple facets, and it's an amazing, just an amazing relationship, and because I get to learn so much from him, and I'm also directing the marketing for him. So creating the message, creating what finding really, it's always about crafting what is that message that's going to resonate with your audience so that you can make the impact that you want to make. And that's the biggest question every business person, entrepreneur, should be asking themselves, especially coaches in the coaching space, or you want to help people. Good. Even though I was ragging on coaches earlier, like if you can help people, go help them. You feel called to help people, go help them. If you're just doing it because you heard that Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi had a webinar and saying information is the greatest thing ever and you can have a business on the beach. Nah, right? Don't do it for the sake of money. Do it for the sake of purpose and the money will flow. Money is great. Don't try to, the other problem that a lot of coaches have is that they think, "Oh, if I'm a servant, I shouldn't make money." There's so many fucked up money mindset things, that just kind of lurk in the shadows. That's why I love money mindset, man. It's a big pillar of what you got to dive into.
I say just be in the state of being, not being surrounded by people that aren't gonna rise with you, that just want to put you down. Screw
Yeah.
that. Those small talk. Oh, you see the game? No. How about,
Nope,
bro? I hate
not
that.
for
I hate
years.
no. Oh man, I always love like going to work in the past, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you watched the Giants game." Like, no, I was watching anime and getting cultured because Asia is superior than America. I said it. I said it. But no, I think it's really cool just being yourself with the right people, the divine timing, getting
Yep.
out of that loneliness. The brotherhood's fantastic. being unshakable confidence and challenging. I think that was the biggest thing for this year for me, Peter, was just, oh man, let me just take this risk because I could spend either all this money on partying and going out and going to raves, or wow, let me take some time and actually heal and find out who I am.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
much more rewarding, much more fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with partying, nothing wrong with raves, but the question becomes, is this serving me? Right? That's an uncomfortable question because inevitably some things are gotta go in your life when you start asking yourself that question. But what are you gonna make space for? You're gonna make room for the things that really matter, that are going to be meaningful. And that's, again, I stated earlier, the meaning of life, right? But it's such a fascinating, what's the meaning of life? Well, what meaning do you give to your life, right?
God damn it.
And it's also the question of, well, me what is the meaning that you will strive for? What is the meaningful goal that you have set for yourself? And the spoiler alert there is that it's your spirit already knows. So it's becoming it's not so much of setting it for yourself as being present to your calling, which is the calling, the voice, that still small voice of God and inspiration that speaks through you in mysterious ways that are non-rational, and you have to be present to hear. And that means silencing your overactive brain that's going, what about this? What about that? Oh, well, so and so got married and they've got a house now, so that must be, they're better than me. So I mean, I better, you really better get on it,
Mm.
right? And all the rest of the comparison and the bullshit and the, oh, well, I mean, you might, if you cuss on this live show, you're going to lose viewers. I mean, it's like, I don't know. And I always struggle with, I'm like, should I cuss? Ideally, no, but sorry, too much time on the roof. No, I'm not going to blame it on that. I mean, just, I do, I get worked up and it comes out, and it's just another layer of just the journey of just, you just, the best thing you can do is communicate authentically, you know, it, and it's not to justify bad habits. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you should cuss because it's a good habit. It's not a good habit, but I do it. And so I'm not going to try to sit here and like hold myself back, because at that point, that's more of a disservice. You know what I mean? Like, it's just more of a disservice to sit here and try to hold myself back and not communicate freely and effectively. And I may as well prep you, like, if you don't like it now, you're not going to want to join, you're not going to want to work with me further. So I may as well be my whole self now instead of shock you later. Like poor PJ. No, I'm kidding. I think you had a pretty good intro. And it's just,
Honestly, yeah, no, for sure. But I like that a lot. I like how you're just becoming more into your own soul and skin through this journey that we have had together. And I think you're vibrating much more higher since when I first met you. I seen it. I see the passion. I see the grin on your face when you have something coming up cooking, and I'm glad that you made it right. You gone through these obstacles that many of us are too afraid to openly discuss, and you know how to pivot the perception that, hey, I had to go through this in order to create and serve for others.
yeah,
And in that journey, me and you are coming out of our own loneliness, and we're finding the fruitations of what blossoms through our trials and tribulations. That's been much more adrenaline, dopamine driven uh, thirst that I can't wait to see what else we get to bite into.
excuse me. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was, give a little context on that whole piece for listeners. Been coaching for years. What happened was I had a bit of a reset happen in multiple facets of life. I'll share this more at some point, but it's just like it was another experience of hitting basically like a rock bottom kind of situation. Where are we at? Still over a year. No, not quite a year. Like, no, more than a. What am I trying to say? Um, had a reset kind of in life, right? It was about last October. So what am I saying? Less than a year ago in a lot of ways. So it's just, it's been all that to say, it's just, yes, I practice what I preach, and that's what leads to this journey. And then just being able to just live it and be it is just that the process works. It works for me, and I practice it for myself, with myself, and it's what I implement and teach, in the coaching realm as well. And so it's exciting too to recognize that your journey is always unfolding, right? And that was part of what brought me to that place, was I'd become too rigid on how
Mm.
things needed to take shape, right? And what I was going to be known for and do. And I wasn't listening to that still small voice within me. Um, there was one point, beautiful moment, where things had like come to a bit. Yeah, it was in a tough spot, and really grappling with, well, what do I do and where do I go? And that's where the rebirth of a lot of this direction, specifically speaking to the men out there, right? The entrepreneurial men, um, and a regrounding in that mission, because I've grappled a lot with, well, what's my mission? Maybe it's just to be marketing guy, right? Sales and marketing, easier to make money. Just talk about that, right? Whatever. And of course, it's still part of it because I have deep expertise in sales and marketing. You want to experience that? Come work with me. I guarantee you will transform your sales and marketing. Um, but it's grounded in a deeper experience than that. So if that's all I do, I'm short selling myself and everyone else by only tapping into a small portion of my gifts and talents, right? And so the deeper portion is that the journey of self knowledge, which is when you step into yourself, you step into your own power, you step into your own confidence. So it's just real. It was just great. It was at night, um, at a truck stop, praying about it, asking for a sign. And there's not often I do that. I was just grappling with, okay, well, where am I supposed to go in my life? What am I supposed to do? I want this, I feel drawn to this, but then also putting it to the test, right? Because I'm like, okay, well, I feel like that's the inspiration, I feel like that's what I'm being called to. Is it really it? Well, God, if it is, you better damn well give me a sign, because I feel frustrated right now, right? Um and so then I go back over to the car, and this truck pulls away, and behind it there was a truck with an angel on the side of the truck.
Oh shit.
And it was I not just like a normal picture of an angel, but an actual like icon painting, iconographic style, which is a very specific style, not very common. It's specific to the Orthodox Church, um, and so it's very significant. I never expect to see an angel on the side of a truck, let alone the angel who was announcing the resurrection of Christ to the myrrh-bearing women in his white robe. It's just like, so that was pretty cool, pretty significant. So it's not often that I go asking for that level of confirmation, because at this point I've learned to know that it's already, if the sense is already there, right? You already feel it within yourself. It's not up here, right? It's not like, oh, I need to figure it out rationally, because it's not going to be a rational, clear answer. You've got to take the step, and then things clarify in hindsight, not in foresight. But sometimes you got to ask for that guidance and be a little over the top, and you might just get the sign you're looking for, like I
Dude,
did
that's
that
crazy.
night,
Like,
and I can't remember what state that was. Um, yeah.
do you still? Well, not do you still? as of late, what's that voice telling you?
As of late, like right now.
I mean, it doesn't have to be right now. No, I'm not gonna put that voice to the spot right now, but
No, but I mean, you mean like in this
lately,
time frame, like right
like currently, like the last
currently.
maybe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
2 3 weeks. Like what is that inner voice calling you to do?
Yeah, it's funny. Well, it's still difficult to put on the spot, kind of on a rational place of like, how do I communicate that rationally,
You don't have
right?
to do it
Outside of
rationally,
just, well, language is rational inherently.
right?
So, but the feeling is just, yeah, it's just in a simple way, just continue. Right?
Ah, that got me excited. No, but that's cool.
Good.
I like that.
No, it's funny. I was like, all right, good question. Glad you asked. It's something I would actually not normally enjoy being asked because I consider it kind of a bit sacred,
Okay.
like that experience, if that makes sense, right? So it's a
Yeah.
little hard to answer still because, but yeah, there's just a sense of knowing and of certainty and of confidence. And so with that, it's just, well, just continue. And I haven't really been questioning very much lately because I've just felt the next step is just always there. So I've just been taking the next step. So I haven't, it's, that's another place too, where it's a little difficult to answer because there's not even like a burning question for me recently. I don't really have a burning question because there's this confidence and certainty of I'm doing the right thing. And so I don't have a question to ask really outside of just what work to do next, what system to build next, and then what tools, right? Just kind of practical, pragmatic in the business kind of stuff, and working on the pieces. But there's a clarity that is beautiful. So I liken it to just one time I put out a fire in a church, and you think, what do you do in a situation of crisis? How do you react if you're in a building that's on fire? You just
I'll call
default to your training
train.
on
Yeah, I
some
call
level.
911, right? Like,
Yeah,
damn.
well, what happened was the firemen showed up and they said, well, if me and the two other people hadn't acted, the church would have burned to the ground.
Oh shit.
They would have been there too late. Um, but what happened was I stepped into that situation and all of a sudden everything else just wiped away. And I felt like I just had this clear tunnel to the point that I felt like, am I a psychopath? Is something wrong with me? Because I felt no emotion. I just felt fire extinguisher, pull the pin. I know how to use this because I did a presentation on how to do this once. So I just memory recall, walk up to the fire, point at the base, spray it. That's it. And walk out when you're getting hard to breathe, go back in and do it again. You know? So it's like it's just a funny kind of experience. From the outside sounds kind of heroic and brave, and from the inside I was just like, I don't know. It just made the next thing just made sense. And there wasn't really any thinking or feeling involved. It just, all right, here it is. Rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do. Do what you know is the next thing to do. And so the best thing you can do is prepare yourself, train, right? And the training does pay off. I can attest to that. Um, but then when you're in the moment, you just trust and you surrender. So there again to loneliness as well. It's a matter of surrendering in the moment, surrendering to what is your higher calling, and you don't get to determine that comes to you, and you surrender to it, and then you find alignment, and then you find that purpose, that magnetic calling.
I love the whole circle feedback conclusion. That was beautiful. I love that you were open about it, and I love the fact that you were in the zone. You asked God a question, and you, not many people kind of get that symbolic answer. And I think you're in that state of being where
Yeah,
it's going to keep flowing, right, Peter? I just think our viewers, our audiences, and most men, they need to see those kinds of examples because we don't have many authentic people out there. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all, yeah, check out my guns, check out this program, check out this diet. And the cool thing about what we're doing, it's a whole package. with mind, body, and soul
Yes.
to make what we want a reality. And the funny thing is, like, I think it was Tuesday. I was like, well, I have this hobby. I have this passion for manga and anime. Like, why am I not including it in my brand? Why am I not doing that? And it's kind of like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do. And I was able to
Love
push
that.
out some content, and it just kind of flew. And I'm like, this is it. This is the direction I want for my brand, my personal message, how I convey others. But
Yes.
I could relate to continue the path, trust the process, and just it's not always going to be in the head, guys. It's not always going to be that inner voice. Sometimes it's in the core, your solar plexus. When you're doing an action, it will intrinsically feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
or hey, this is the force is telling you this is the way.
That's right. This is the way.
Way, man. I'm just glad
Weapons
to
are a
be in
part of
that.
my religion. One of the best lines. But yeah, it's so spot on. Don't, I don't know. It's just when you know, and you just have to act. Inspiration is the mother of action, right? So you'll always, the inspiration will guide you to here's the next step, here's the next action to take. Just do it. Don't sit there and question it. Just do it. Because the more we sit there and question it, the more we're just silencing, we're turning down the volume of the voice of inspiration and turning up the volume of the critical mind, which has its place and has its very valid and important role, but don't turn that volume up. It'll just drive you crazy and it'll shut down your inspiration because it can't understand the inspiration. This is going to go,
Mm.
how's that going to work? Oh yeah, how are you going to do that? Have you thought about this? Right? You don't get to know. You don't get to know how it's going to work, right? Like Elon Musk is a great example of that. That dude just continues to do stuff that people say, oh, you can't do that. Oh, Twitter's going to fail. Well, now it's X, motherfuckers. So go, just love it. It's just like, here's what I'm going to do. And everybody's going to say, why is it X now? I don't know. Why don't you go start your own company and get it to that size where you can pay 15 billion or whatever it is, right? Like, why do people worry so much about somebody else's business? Like that dude, I don't know whether you agree with him or not. And I'm not here to say he's right or the example of how to be as a human being, but we've got a lot to learn from him.
Yeah.
Okay. And part of that is just get to work. You get to work, and now he has the money that he can go buy Twitter and change it to X. And I don't know why, but he did because he could. And you know what? I love that. He just did because he could. And why not? Because he's wanted to use X.com for years, and now he has the opportunity. Cool. All right. What are you going to do? That's the real question. What are you going to do? Right? And that's the beautiful question we can ask ourselves, and then the inspiration can come. What am I going to do? What do I do next? And then actually listen to the feeling. Because a lot of it comes from down here. It doesn't come from here down. It comes from here up. And then we formulate the question because we have the experience, we take the action, and then we're able to formulate the next question through our head center and ajna, and then say, okay, well, from this, what's next? So it's a spring, but we have to listen through our being, our lower being. Not that it's right, but it's just that primal part of our being that is emotional. The language of the body and the subconscious is emotion and feeling. The language of the conscious mind is words, thoughts. So you have to be present to your feeling and then allow that feeling to impel you to the proper action. And then ask, okay, now that I've done that, what's next? And then you will be perpetually guided. And then you get into a flow state in that, where you are flowing from one inspired act to the next. And that's a beautiful state to be in.
What's next is join the goddamn brotherhood.
Yeah, that's
Ask
it.
questions.
Where you at? Let's go. I want
Uh,
to go see what we're grilling tonight because I'm hankering to go grilled a chicken last night.
oh, dude, you're killing me. Kill. I haven't even
Yep.
started cooking. I'm gonna probably burn it again.
Well, don't do that.
Well, hopefully you teach me a little bit how to be a goddamn man in the kitchen, bro, because I am failing in life in that aspect.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like the hobbies that I've had, like grilling and cooking, have been one of them. And I don't know, when people ask, like, what are your hobbies? I'm always like, I don't know. But then just recently, um, well, it's helped that we've been in this house, like, because we go kind of place to place. Some places don't really have grills, or they don't have very good grills. This place has a great grill. So a lot of room in there, and that's what's opened up some opportunity and crossing the threshold of like, never grilled ribs before. Kind of intimidated by that in the past. Now I've done it twice, and they both turned out great. Well, the first time was just amazing, 10 out of 10. Number two was like 8 out of 10. Still turned out well, but wasn't quite as good. I let it sit too hot. I didn't realize while we were live streaming one of those weeks. No, that was last week. Yeah, I had it sitting there, and I should have turned one of the burners off anyway. So live and learn, but it still turned out great. Skewers, got the skewers down, let them marinate for a while, and then you skewer. You just gotta turn them a lot, sauce them up while they're. So the edges they don't get burned and charred. They just get a little, just a little crispy on the edges, but not like hard. And the inside's just juicy and moist. Steak on mushrooms, onions, and peppers around them too. Let it all cook up together. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. And that is definitely as the round table, the mastermind expands. That's part of what we're going to be doing is retreats, and we'll definitely have some grilling involved in those. And it's not just going to be like hang out in a boardroom and talk all day kind of retreats. I'm talking about like adventure, interaction, engagement kind of retreats, because that's what I think so many of us need is meaningful activity with other men is very important, especially for bonding, right? And if you're going to be spending time in a mastermind, you want to bond with your brothers, you go do something great together. That's going to be key. So might just incorporate some grilling into that. I don't know if I'll outsource it or I should just grill. It depends on how many dudes we got showing up. So
I mean,
get in now and I'll grill for you when it's
that's
small
a
enough of a
great
group.
pitch.
Don't wait till it's blown up. I can't grill for that many people.
Yeah, they get to miss out because they weren't ready. They weren't ready to
All good.
challenge themselves.
It's all in the proper time.
Dude, I'm so excited for it, especially with do paintballing with them. Oh boy, I want Saka on my team though. All right, I know he has
Yeah,
a
that
good
dude's gonna be a
goddamn
killer.
shot.
Yeah. There you go. There are more people in this, not just me and PJ. It's just we're the ones who show up and do this together. So that's the exciting thing too, is you never know what's like, just how things are gonna unfold, right? Like this was just a realization that like we both have a similar mission. Let's
Yeah.
let's collaborate, right? Let's do this together. It's been freaking awesome. So I look forward to this every week. Like a high point. So
Yo, facts. And I actually find this easier than doing my goddamn podcast because I cack out my tongue half the time. Then I'm like, Jesus,
man, it's so producing content by yourself is a whole nother trip, but I can attest to it. It gets easier. It gets easier over time. You just continue to it's one of those things that takes practice. You've got the edge now because of the work we've done, and then you just got to do it, right? It's the the 10,000 hour rule. People love to talk about and like kind of fixate on. Yes, pair it with good preparation and deep insight, and you're going to set yourself up for a whole nother level of success. If you just fixate on, I just need to do this long enough, when you know yourself, the real key here is self-knowledge, so that you know where to spend your 10,000 hours.
amen.
And the flip of that is self-knowledge will also give you insight to where you've already spent 10,000 hours and you're just not even aware of it, because you take your own skills for granted and you think it's not really valuable because it comes easily to you because you spent 10,000 plus hours, probably 50,000 hours on it. because it's your natural gift and skill set. And you're thinking, oh, well, I need to go learn, coding because that's how I'm going to make a living, because I need to get into the IT sector and, like, be a cybersecurity guy or whatever, or code AI. I was like, that's probably not your skill set. For me with AI, I couldn't code AI to save my life, but I know how to leverage that tool to create other things based on the skill sets that I know, and so I'm able to tap into it in new and cool ways, very, beneficial ways, because I know my skill sets and I know where to lean in and where to just not bother, not mess with it.
I love that, leaning into our gifts.
All that from loneliness. There you go. But I mean, look, thank you all for watching. Everybody who was with us part of the time, all the time, any of the time, and just remember that, yeah, your loneliness is an opportunity to deepen your own self, your connection with yourself, your connection with God. And from that foundation, you will have far more meaningful connection and relationship with those around you. And the loneliness you'll find to be a lever, like a launch pad to greater heights in your life. So don't ever assign meaning that it's bad or a problem. It's not a lack, it's an opportunity. Leverage it as such. And thank you for joining us here today. We always appreciate it. Love having just love showing up and doing this. Join the Brotherhood, connect with us there, drop a comment, and be sure to subscribe and track with us for more next week, same time. Which I think at this point we should just say 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Mountain, which is 6 p.m. Eastern. And
6 p.m.
we will see
So
you
we
there.
did start late. Yeah.
We were saying 3:30 for a bit Mountain, but we usually get started by 4 Mountain. So I think we just set it at that. We'll be good.
Solid. And remember, when we have each other, we have everything.